Hey guys, Wesley Todd with Florida Prison Consulting, Federal Prison Consulting LLC, and I want to talk to you guys today about something very, very urgent. You've got case managers, dorm managers, counselors, etc. in all of the federal prisons around the entire nation. But let's talk about Yazoo right now. Yazoo, we had a former case manager named Miss Pleasant, and don't take that name literally. She was the most evil woman in the world. She cut off my phone for permanently. I was never allowed to speak with my family. I went for 5 years without speaking to my family. That is the opposite of rehabilitation. This woman is so evil. Now, all these women combined are the most evil, despicable human beings in the world. They just were raised in the wrong era. They should have been in the Nazi concentration camps as SS officers. They're involved in getting a government paycheck, living in government housing that's basically free, and on top of that, smuggling in massive amounts of drugs, smuggling in massive amounts of cell phones, which they sell for up to $5,000-$10,000 sometimes. Sometimes it's as low as like $800. Also, all types of drugs, everything from fentanyl. Another common practice is they spray roach killer on paper. They cut it into little tiny itty bitty strips, and they sell these little tiny strips for just like tons and tons of money to the inmates. And the inmates are using those same cell phones to send them cash app payments of hundreds and hundreds of dollars. They're also involved in prostitution. They're also involved in RAPE. In Coleman, there was a whole bunch of officers involved in RAPE, and there was a lot of women who were mothers, they were daughters, they were grandmothers, they were wives, and they all got sexually abused really, really, really badly. There was actually gang RAPE, like movies being made of, that, and they had lockers full of these videos, and guess what? The prosecution covered for them and said that, oh, well, since they gave full confessions, now they've basically messed up the court process to where we can't prosecute them. So none of them are prosecuted. These are current sex offenders living in neighborhoods right next to you, right next to your wife and children. You already know they have very predatory, very sick minds because they've done that to federal inmates, to men's wives that are waiting for them urgently on the street, waiting for them to go home, and the federal prosecutors won't even prosecute them. I mean, this is so disgusting. This is unreal, and this is happening all over America. Federal state guard in California was recently tried and convicted for actually RAPEING. They said 90-something% of every single female incarcerated woman, 90-something% of every single woman in the state of California. And fortunately, the state actually prosecuted him. And I was on the phone with a prosecutor many, many times, and I was helping organize, to get letters to the court asking for the max penalty, etc. But in the federal system, the problem is the courts actually protect. The courts protect, the FBI protects, the OIG protects. They hide all this evidence because they don't want the dominoes to fall. Because essentially the way it works is if one officer falls, if he gets more than a year and a day, he's going to try to work a plea deal, and he's going to try to snitch on other officers. So they don't want that to happen. They know what happens when people are facing long incarceration, and basically it could take the whole system down if one officer goes down for a good amount of time, which would actually show him that there are consequences, and it would actually show the rest of them that there are consequences. But let me list off a few names. So Miss Johnson, Miss Smith, Miss Pleasant. Now these are different in different areas. Miss Smith and Miss Johnson are currently employed. Mr. McKenzie as well in Yazoo is also currently employed. They are currently selling cell phones to MS-13s. They're currently selling cell phones to sex offenders. They're currently bringing in, roach sprayed paper, methamphetamine, pretty much any drug you could ever imagine is readily available. You can ask for it. You can get it within 2 minutes. Make a cash app payment on a cell phone. You will have your drug of choice, no matter what it is, ecstasy, methamphetamine, ketamine, anything you want, you can have within 2 minutes. And the thing is, these are actual drug trap houses. These are not prisons for rehabilitation. There's open sewage flowing through all the cells. You know, they're shutting off inmates' phones permanently where they can never call their loved one. They're canceling visitation. They don't want you to see your loved one. They don't want you to tell on them for what they're doing. And, you know, they do not want it to hit the news. You know, it's all being covered up. Even Benny Thompson, one of the most corrupt ones in the world, he's been covering for them. I had a case manager, Johnson, just sit there and laugh at me and tell me that Benny Thompson has been protecting them for years, and Benny Thompson is never going to turn on them, and he's never going to actually do an investigation that's real and actually stop them. She just laughed about it in derision and just basically told me that there's no hope. You guys have no hope. The case manager, Miss Smith, is constantly jacking up people's halfway dates and basically not allowing people to go to home confinement, not allowing people to go to halfway house. She'll give somebody that's been down life, she might give them 1 day halfway house. And, you know, these same staff members are talking about the new directors who are really trying to make a change, and they're saying, screw them, I'm not going to work for some former convicted felon. I mean, these guys were raised in the wrong era. They should be Nazi SS officers. They are so evil. They are so bad. And the very thought that we could actually keep them in the federal prison system. These people have never faced consequences for their actions, so they're very emboldened. They think that in 4 years, when President Trump gets out of office, they're just going to revert right back to their same paths. I mean, the hood actually trains people that, hey, look, you can actually do a lot of prison time for selling drugs in the hood, but if you get a job as a federal officer, you get a federal government paycheck, you're under a 100% protection from the courts, and you have your own trap house where drugs are worth 10 times, 100 times more money. And so what they do is they really, really push gang activity. They really, really want gang activity. Now, that they want gang activity for two reasons. Number one is to help them basically take the blame off themselves and pretend that drugs are coming in on drones. And basically they utilize the gangs. They have, you know, the leaders of the gangs. The leaders of the gangs distribute the drugs for the officers. And then what they do is they actually write up, you know, these gangs in federal prison as though these are like the most dangerous thing in the world. These guys never deserve release. They're a threat to society, etc. Because they want to keep these guys in there forever. They want these guys addicted to methamphetamine because when they're addicted to methamphetamine, they're constantly buying their drugs every single day. This is so crazy, like you would not believe it. They have an officer, they have a commissary for where, you know, we go to buy soups and cookies and stuff like that with a crazy, crazy, crazy markup. Um, and they also sell stamps, postage stamps. The officers go in there and they steal thousands of dollars worth of postage stamps, like literally every shift. Thousands of dollars worth of U.S. postage stamps. They put them in their pocket and walk out the front door. They order all this products into the federal prison system, and then they turn around. They sell the exercise equipment on Facebook. They sell the exercise equipment on Craigslist. They sell the food. They order way too much food. They sell the food for 10 cents on the dollar to restaurants. They're doing this at every single federal prison. It's not a joke. The Unicor program that puts police lights on police cars and border patrol cars, the officers are instructing the inmates to basically peel off the insulation of the copper to where they have pure copper. And this is wiring that's supposed to go on these police cars. It's very expensive copper wiring, but they're being instructed to clean the wiring, and the officers are turning around, taking that same wiring down to the recycling yard and cashing out on it. They've got an electronics program in Arizona, and basically the officers are stealing all the electronics, truckloads and truckloads and truckloads of computers, and selling them. I mean, guys, this is out of control, but mainly focusing on Miss Smith, Miss Johnson, and Miss Pleasant, who is actually retired. The retirement issue is a big issue for me because they're collecting Social Security, they're retired, they've gotten out just when the getting out's good, and I don't think this should happen. I think that Miss Pleasant needs to be put in handcuffs. She needs to serve probably a 10 to 15-year prison sentence. She has destroyed so many lives. She has encouraged so much gang activity that has transferred on to the street. So when you see the violence on the street, when you see the MS-13s, when you see the Serranios, when you see the Norteños, when you see the Tango Blast, and you realize that the officers are the ones that started that, when you show up to the prison and the officers tell you right at the gate, hey, you better join a gang right now. Who do you want to run with? And they'll give them a list of names. You want to run with the white boys? You want to run with the Latin Kings? You want to run? Who do you want to run with? Like you need to sign up for somebody right now. The officers are starting the gangs because the officers need the gangs. Now, the second point of why the officers need the gangs is because occasionally there's somebody like me. It's very, very rare, somebody that will actually fight the corruption. And when somebody fights the corruption, the officers need somebody to actually, be able to go take out a hit on this inmate and basically kill this inmate for, writing grievances or filing lawsuits, things like that. So the officers utilize the gangs very heavily in the sales of drugs as well as the punishment of other inmates, doing things that the officers wouldn't be allowed to do. So guys, I'm calling for an emergency, immediate arrest of dorm counselor Johnson, case manager Smith, as well as dorm manager McKenzie. These three need to be brought to justice. Now, Miss Pleasant has retired, but we need to yank her out of her cozy home. We need to strip her of her Social Security payment, and we need to put her behind bars for about 10 or 15 years. This lady cut off my phone because I asked my mom to call the FBI. This lady cut off my phone forever. I was never allowed to speak to my family in 5 years. Now, does that increase recidivism? Is that really rehabilitation, to cut me off from my family for 5 years? That's terrible. That is terrible. And it's only by the grace of God that I wasn't put in sight and sound management. It's only by the grace of God that I wasn't killed, because there were so many attempted murders on my life while in federal prison. It's just like unspeakable. I've got stories to tell for years. But guys, know this. The Federal Bureau of Prisons is falling right now. But it's up to you to like, share, and comment on this video. We need these videos to go viral. President Trump needs to hear about these videos. Josh needs to hear about these videos, this second in command director. We need these videos to go viral because we need these people arrested. We can't just simply change the BOP with the current staff. We have to get these staff out of there. We have to put in convicted felons to run the BOP because they have faced consequences for their actions. The current BOP has never faced a consequence for their action. They don't even know what consequences are. Just the very idea of having a non-convicted person work at a federal prison is just the stupidest idea in the world, because they don't know anything about, facing consequences for their actions. They've never been caught before doing anything, and they haven't learned from it. They haven't learned from anything. They're just emboldened. They're just emboldened to commit more crime. They take officers back in the back room and have prostitution sex with them and charge them up to $5,000 or $10,000 to have sex with them. I mean, what kind of America is this? What kind of flag is this? I want to be proud of my country. I want to be joyful and just proud of the American flag and the American people and the American dream. But how can I be proud of the American dream when I know that the American prisons are more corrupt than Mexico, than Cuba, than anywhere in South America? The American prisons are the worst thing that America has going for them. We have to fix this because all this violence translates back to the street. We absolutely have to fix the prisons. And in order to fix the prisons, every single staff member has to be fired. And I can explain why. Because every single staff member is basically a terrorist. They are a terrorist to America. Now, if they haven't been engaged in prostitution and drug selling and cell phone selling themselves personally, they've broken a major federal law which requires them by oath of office, to turn in any corruption to the OIG, to the FBI. Anytime they see corruption, which could be fraud, waste, or abuse, they've refused to do this. It's like monkey see, it's like that monkey thing where you don't see, you don't hear. It's that kind of thing. So Every single staff member in the BOP absolutely has to be arrested. That is mission number one. Then we have to rebuild the prisons. We have to put convicted felons that have actually changed their lives into the federal prisons. The warden needs to be a convicted felon. All the staff members, the captains, the lieutenants, etc. Nobody should even be able to apply to join the federal prisons if they are not a formerly convicted felon, because the only people that understand the mentality of prisoners is a convicted felon. These are the only type of people that actually have compassion for these federal inmates. These are the only type of people that actually know, if I sell drugs, if I smuggle drugs in these federal prisons, I'm going to face consequences. These are the only people that know, Trump is about to raise the bar and the convictions are going to be far more severe for federal correction officers. So guys, everybody has to be removed. Number one, please get this message out, guys, to President Trump. President Trump absolutely has to hear this. We're trying to fix the prison systems right now, and this is urgent, guys. Please get this message out. Like, share, and comment. If you've got ideas, please post them in the comments. It's very urgent, guys. This is Wesley Todd with Federal Prison Consulting, and God bless. I will see you soon. Much love.